Why did you move outside the US?
So I have an interesting story. I actually went to school in Mexico years ago. God, I've been saying 15 years. It's actually 17 years ago now because I'm getting older. I grew up on a farm in Eastern Washington State, and it was known when I was a kid in my small town that pretty much like anyone from a small town, you kind of just do what the rest of your family does. So I always assumed that I would end up taking over the farm one day. The only problem was that most of our workers were migrant workers that spoke only Spanish or very little English. So from a very young age, I was 15 or 16 years old, and I realized I should probably learn a little bit of Spanish if I want to stick to agriculture. So I had the opportunity to come down here. I was going to stay here for just 6 weeks to do an intensive Spanish language course. Turns
Mm,
out I learned the language really, really quickly, and they actually invited me to enroll as a Mexican student, which saved me a ton of money in tuition. And they also allowed me to play baseball for the university. I wasn't that great of a ball player in high school, but in the private school that I went to here in Mexico, they invited me to try out and gave me a spot on the team. So that was pretty cool. I decided to stay down here 2 full years to study, and then I worked down here for a couple of years. Went back to the United States, got into digital marketing, lived in California for quite a while. And then it was actually during COVID where we got locked down to the point where they even closed our damn beaches. And at that point, I was thinking, I'm tired of this. I had worked really hard in California, had multiple jobs, had side gigs, kind of like everyone does in California. You indicated you're in Queens. I'm sure it's the same way that you have to be making some good money to get ahead in those places. You can live well with a decent income, but to get ahead and push the needle forward, it's actually quite difficult in those types of cities. So once we got locked down in California for COVID and I didn't have a job anymore and the rent kept going up, I decided I'm going to get the hell out of here. And I was already thinking of doing the digital nomad thing before. 2 to 3 years prior, I started watching a guy named Aaron Clary. He's really into the minimalist mindset, just downsizing your life, reducing your expenses as much as possible. So that way you don't necessarily have to work as hard. I did do that for a bit, but turns out it's not fun making not a lot of money, even if you have no expenses. So now I'm in a new chapter in my life where I decided, okay, let's combine all of my strengths. I already know the lay of the land in Mexico. I've lived here before. I know how to get around. I know how to get set up. I know that I can stay on my minimalist budget, but live a very, very high value type lifestyle, or just, I don't want to say Playboy type lifestyle, but I can live very well here for very cheap. And then in doing so, it frees up a lot of my mental bandwidth to where I can make more money doing my corporate gigs. And then I'm starting to make some money on my channel now too. So that was really the primary reason I wanted to start getting ahead, and I want to do it quickly since I am getting a bit older now. I'm not in my 20s anymore.